Hello, everyone. Yes, you can hear me. And thank you, Paul, for reading out that title. It's a mouthful. I'm not doing that again. I'm Neha. I'm client partner at RTB House, and I'll be your host today. So we'll kick off with Cookieless solution. I know it's been a drag, but it is important, and the industry is behind getting it right. And then next up will be future of advertising and tech, and a bit of a spoiler alert, it is going to be about Gen AI. Sorry, Simon, stealing your thunder there. So I don't know if you were expecting a time travel capsule to take you into the future, but nevertheless, we have our leaders and future thought leaders here who is going to walk us through what future will look like. So I'm going to go over to my panel and ask them for a quick intro and something you're passionate about. So let's start with Shuvai.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Shuvai Ezafili. We didn't get to update that with my married name. And I'm head of performance at On the Beach. Something I'm deeply passionate about is fashion.
Fantastic. Yeah. Scott, over to you.
So I'm Scott Friesen. I head Privacy Sandbox partnerships at Google, based here in London. And I am passionate about being on the beach, which is why I'm excited to be here with Shuvai.
Over to you, Simon.
Hi there, thank you. So I'm Simon Trewavas. I'm the country manager for RTB House in the UK. If you're less familiar with RTB House, we are a demand-side platform that specializes in outcomes. And I'm passionate about jogging and running, and I will say, if I'm lucky, I can be running on the beach.
Wow. Everybody wants to be at the beach, in this weather especially. So Scott, we'll start off with you. You are head of Private Sandbox Partnership EMEA, big title, and big responsibility. Cliched question for you, probably. How do you feel about managing the delays?
It's a good question. I'm obviously a little bit biased here, so I would say how I'm feeling right now is optimistic, and let me tell you why. So if you don't know, earlier this year on Chrome, we removed cookies from 1% of our users to allow the industry to test some of the new technologies that we're here to talk about. And so since January, we've been doing this test and working with companies to really understand how these new technologies will work. And we, a few weeks ago, announced an update to the timeline where we're actually going to push back the ultimate removal of third-party cookies from Chrome. There's a couple of reasons for that. One was based on the number of stakeholders that we work with, different ad tech companies, industries, regulators, publishers, where we were getting an enormous amount of feedback, and we wanted to make sure we had time to really reconcile the differences in the feedback that we're receiving. And we're also working with the CMA, the UK Competitions Authority, who we have legal commitments to make sure that we're removing these third-party cookies in a responsible way. And so we wanted to ensure that there was adequate time for them to really assess the results of the tests and all the work that's been going on since this 1% happened back in January. And finally, of course, if you're an advertiser or a brand, you probably don't want this big, massive change to the way marketing works online to happen in the middle of Q4 in the busy holiday season. So we've said, subject to getting approval from the regulators, we won't remove third-party cookies until early 2025 for now.
All right, makes sense why the delays then. So it's going to happen in 6 months, and I think what you've just mentioned, the industry's been preparing for it. But do you really think the SSPs, the publishers, the DSPs are going to be ready for it when the time comes?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that transitioning from third-party cookies is a huge, enormous undertaking, and it's really not something that Chrome or Google can do by ourselves. It requires all of us to collaborate, and so from the beginning of this project, we've been working with the industry, with DSPs, SSPs, and others to get feedback to help us to kind of push this project forward. And actually, RTB House, as early as 2019, were in kind of conversations about the design and how the Privacy Sandbox might look in the future, and offering feedback and improvements to these technologies. So we know that lots of companies have been leaning in and have been testing in this kind of 1% test that we've seen so far. And we're hoping to continue testing and working with those companies. I think one thing was when we did announce the delay to the timeline, I saw a lot of posts and a lot of companies saying that while they welcomed the additional time to get ready, they still wanted everybody to really focus on preparing and starting now. Because as you say, 6 months is really not that long to do this kind of enormous change.
Yep. And Shuvai, as a client and advertiser, what are your apprehensions with this change or transition?
Yeah, I think the concerns are obviously have been there for a while. I think the transition in itself, I think the writing's probably been in the sand for a while. As early as probably 2017, if we're going back, if you were doing any advertising around then, obviously with Apple's ITP changes, for example, and if you were running activities since then, especially through the pandemic, there were obvious shifts, and I think I started thinking about it in any role that I've been in ever since then, and making sure it's at the forefront of these conversations. I think a big part of being able to, I think, continue to grow and keeping, I think, the future in mind has been making sure we're working with our vendors and having those active conversations moving forward to make sure that, we're, I think, protected as much as possible. But that transition's been made a lot smoother by working with vendors like yourselves who do have solutions in place.
Nice. So, great compliment for us there, Simon. Tell us, how are you helping our clients transition? But actually, I'm thinking before that, let's address, RTB House has been working on cookieless solutions since the word go. I think like 2020 is pretty much when I joined the company. Can you tell us what's happening behind the scenes?
Yes, definitely. So I think for us who've been working on it, as Scott referenced, since back in sort of 2019, 2020, it almost feels like the decade of cookieless already. So there's a lot of investment that's gone in. I think strategically, that was one of the big bets we wanted to make as a company. And as Scott referenced, when the original proposition was put forward, the team at RTB House, like the engineering team, the mathematicians, really thought hard about what the future environment would look like and what would be really important to pretty much everyone in the audience. So there are two things that we thought we should really focus on, and that was how bidding works in the new environment, and then also how you can work with creative treatment. So we wrote outcome-based turtle dove, which is a bit of a mouthful, but effectively what that means is, at an individual user level, so for Shuvai, for Scott, for myself, for Neha, for everyone in the audience, you can still understand where that person is in their path to purchase. And what that really means is you can apply a bid modifier in the future state. And we felt that was really important because a lot of people have campaigns which are based around goals, like outcome goals, such as ROI or ROAS. So we built that, and that's been fully incorporated into what is now the Protected Audience API. But I think that was one piece, and then the second piece about how we've been preparing is all around how can you make sure that the creative is really relevant? How can we ensure that that works in that future state? So we wrote product-level turtle dove, again, a bit of a mouthful, but what that really does is it means that you can understand what people are interested in, and so you can make product recommendations. And what that means is, combined with the capability to understand the right way to bid and the right creative treatment to show, you can still deliver personalization in the future state. And for me and for us, I think where we were really excited about this is that these are now fully baked into the Protected Audience API. That's now on the Chrome browser, and the Chrome browser has 3 billion people accessing it across the globe. And the reason why we're passionate about it is we think that really delivers addressability at scale.
That's fantastic. So Simon is saying we can still personalize in a cookieless environment. RTB House has been testing it, by the way. But Scott, what will then change with this cookieless approach?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think Simon hit on some of this already, but one of the things that we were trying to do with the Privacy Sandbox was to ensure that there was kind of alternative solutions to the really critical advertising use cases that you have today. So everybody here wants to be able to target relevant ads to the right audience, and you want to be able to measure them and understand how successful they are. This is not new to digital, not new to anything, the Privacy Sandbox, but we tried to build these new privacy-preserving solutions that allow you to do those things, but in a way that respects our users' privacy. It doesn't allow for kind of mass tracking and surveillance of their data. So to give you an example, if you're an advertiser and you want to activate your first-party data programmatically, you can still do that today using the Protected Audience API, and you can deliver an ad to that audience and measure it. If you want to look at conversions or lifetime value, all those things will still be possible. But you're doing it in a way where you're not able to track a user's individual browsing history and every site that they've been on and understand what they're doing, and also in a way that doesn't allow that data to leak to other third-party trackers or people who maybe shouldn't be having access to it. So a lot of the same use cases will be possible. They'll just be done in a slightly different way.
Interesting. Great. So then, Simon, actually, to what Shuvai was saying, that you are sort of like, she's believing in this transition, but what have we done to enable our clients through this?
So it's a good question. I think there's a lot of education that's had to happen. I think that's on all sides, so that obviously includes ourselves. I mean, the mathematicians, the engineers, they're really driving all this, but we all need to understand it. So one of the things we've been doing for the last couple of years is just taking every client and prospect on a journey together, explaining what the changes are happening, and then what it means for us and for the future state too. But I think the other thing we've been talking a lot to Shuvai and our clients around is building really durable partnerships. Because I think when we often talk about digital transformation, sometimes it's the people and the processes which actually inhibit digital transformation to take place. And this is, an epic change. So one of the things we've talked a lot around is how can we make sure we've got the right relationships in place, the right partnerships in place. So really challenging each other and making sure we know what processes should be ready so that as we go through the change, we can make sure it's successful. And as part of that, I think what's fallen out is thinking about business objectives. So one big piece is, lots of testing and learning now to understand what good looks like today. And so at the moment, as Scott's reference, like 1% of cookies are deprecated. But we need to know what good looks like today as we go through into the new world. So making sure that all the kind of budgets are in place, KPIs in place, performances are in place as well. Because it feels like it's a good way to set ourselves up for the future. There's other bits and pieces like getting the technology ready, making sure that we understand if they've got the right tags in place. But it's all about building those durable partnerships. And I think part of that is then making sure we've got a resilient plan. And what I really mean by that is, obviously the change is going to happen in Q1 next year, but it's not going to end then. It's going to keep on going until 2025, 26. So equally, one of the messages that we're talking to a lot around is have multiple partners. This is going to be a big journey that we're going on together, and we should be transparent that it's going to have some challenges as we go through. So be as prepared as you can be. And those are the sorts of conversations that we've been having together.
And Shuvai, you are one of our very bold clients, let's say.
I'd rather you said the boldest.
I did. I changed
I'll
that.
take that.
And yeah, always eager to do the right thing. So how did you find this transition from technical strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that sometimes we neglect as marketers. It's very easy to focus on the day-to-day, the numbers, especially if you're trade-focused. So for context, I was on mat leave when the initial announcement came from Google around Jan, baby in hand, breastfeeding, and scrolling on LinkedIn. Yes, I'm that sad. And, one of the biggest things that, RTB House really helped us navigate, and this is a big part of, how we choose who we're going to ultimately, add to our partner stack. They helped us with master classes, so just understanding what these changes are going to mean. And also, we've implemented JS tags, which allow us to host the Sandbox solution as well. And what that ultimately means is, again, Simon touched on it perfectly. It's about building a plan that's resilient, but in the meantime, as you're going through that journey, it's about taking the business through that. Privacy isn't always the most glamorous conversation, but I think it's really important to say to the business, look, we need to understand what good looks now so that when the future hits, we're in a better position to actually say, we've done all we can, or there's more that we can continue to build on here. So that was a really big part of it for us. Can you take us on this journey? Can you partner with us to improve education within the business? Make sure, we get tech buy-in and at a board level too. That's absolutely key. That we get everyone who needs to be involved in this on board as well. And it's a big thing for us, especially on the beach. We are a privacy-first business. It's something we really do focus on, and we care about how we're handling consent, how we're handling privacy in the future. And again, it's just about protecting what you're doing a little bit as well as a marketer, a little bit selfishly. So that really helped for sure.
Nice. Scott, final word from you, and actually maybe one pitfall that you can tell us to watch out for. I know you had a few, but because looking at time,
Sure.
Let's keep it to one today.
I would say the one thing about the Privacy Sandbox is that it's not meant to be a one-to-one solution for everything that third-party cookies do today. So it's really important, like Simon and Shuvai said, to understand what your options are and to be out there testing and looking at different alternatives. And that could be alternatives based on the Privacy Sandbox. It could be things like first-party data, contextual, or even this explosion of new private solutions built on machine learning and AI and all these other great stuff that's being talked about today at this event. So I think it's important to also see what else is out there in the industry.
Amazing. I'm going to move on to our next section. I'm putting you in a time capsule, Simon. you're in 2026, third-party cookies are gone,
Yes, for sure.
and he's on the beach sipping. Okay, yeah, okay, perfect. What advancements do you see in AI in respect to ad tech?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think so AI has obviously become a really hot topic again recently. So at RTB, we use something called deep learning. It's one part of artificial intelligence. It's the same sort of technology which Alphabet have. They execute it via DeepMind and Waymo. Tesla has it to help solve, like, say, self-driving cars, navigation challenges. We put it into the marketing stack. So I think technology will still continue to be a real differentiator, and it's I'd suggest a moment where you can test and learn. But I think we also need to hold AI to account, and so when you're talking about those resilient plans, make sure that whatever AI you're using is actually delivering against what it's meant to do too. I think there's also been a lot of really interesting changes in the last 6 to 12 months when everyone's talking about ChatGPT and the changes in generative AI. And so equally, we at RTB House have brought out something within that space called Content GPT.
Fantastic. So for the audience, Content GPT is RTB's shiny new tech. Basically, in simple terms, it is using generative AI to find users with intent on the open web, like URLs and internet. Now, Shuvai, again, a bold move from you. You have put your money on testing our Gen AI tech. What sort of inspired you, other than my pitch to you, of course?
I mean, it was a very good pitch, Neha. So from my side, I think what really kind of caught my attention was the generative aspect of this, in that it's able to analyze the URLs that it thinks ultimately are going to work well before serving ads. I think we've always kind of been a little bit lazy to a degree within the prospecting space, in that we to some degree, we always kind of think one size fits all. One of our kind of things that we're really focused on at the moment is definitely personalization, and we're challenging ourselves across the board in understanding actually what can technology allow us to do across the funnel. And this was really a great solution from our perspective, and it came right on time. So again, it's about testing it. Being an early adopter is huge for me. I'm sad we weren't the first to test it, but you know, that's for next time. I think again, it's just about being able to adopt it early, test and learn, understand how it's going to fit into the picture, and it helps us tick quite a lot of boxes in terms of what we're trying to address for sure.
Fantastic. So we are coming to time, and let me summarize for you. So 3 billion users, that's 60% of the internet users will be addressable in a privacy safe way, rather. And the cherry on the cake is that you can personalize your content, which is amazing. Therefore, do start testing with your partners now. And finally, the future of AI is very promising. It's going to massively improve programmatic, not just from a creative standpoint, but will also give you a lot more for your ad dollar spend. So after that big lunch break, if you had one, I hope we've left you with some more food for thought and maybe some burning questions. Our booth is right out there, so if you have any questions, do pop over and see us. And thank you, and give it up for our lovely panel.